update on the Meidas Plus Substack. I'm your host, Ken Harbaugh,
Look at
joined
all those
by
faces.
Fred Wellman. Be sure to subscribe to Fred's Substack. I don't know where the Chiron is, actually.
FP Wellman, fp.wellman.substack.com.
There you go.
Do it.
Do it. Subscribe to Fred. If you're so inclined, subscribe to the Ken Harbaugh Show. But thanks for joining us here on Meidas Plus. Before I get into it with Fred, I want to give you a quick update because the national security picture is pretty complicated this week, and it is moving fast. The dust from Operation Epic Fury hasn't settled. We are still reckoning with what an active military confrontation with Iran means for freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, for our force posture in the Gulf, and for the constitutional questions that come with a war that Congress never authorized. But Iran isn't the only front. Trump is back to threatening Greenland. You heard that right. And it's not as a Trump punchline, but as a stated foreign policy objective. And our NATO allies are watching all of it and asking whether American security guarantees mean what they used to. Sadly, I think we know the answer. These aren't separate stories. They reflect an administration that treats alliances as burdens and American credibility as disposable. Fred Wellman is going to help us navigate all this. He's a West Point and Harvard graduate, an Army combat vet with 4 tours in Iraq where he served as a Ranger tabbed aviation officer. He hosts the On Democracy podcast right here on the Meidas Touch Network. And he's running for Congress, lucky for us, in Missouri's 2nd District, taking on, is this right, Fred, a 13-year Republican incumbent?
That's correct.
That's in my notes.
Wagner.
All right.
Yep, 13 years.
Fred, you've got both the military background and the political vantage point. When you look at Iran, Greenland, and NATO at the same time, what's the through line?
Oh, the through line is we've decided to screw our allies, right? So what I find fascinating at this moment we face is that the Trump administration and their Republican, what I call doormat Congress, has got this weird alpha male complex going on where we're America first and we're so strong. And it's a lack of interest in history and reality, right? And so NATO is both a defensive organization, but also our allies, our ready-to-go allies. And they've spent years now since the first administration, but the second one much worse because we actually had grown adults as the Secretary of Defense last time. Now we got Pete Hegseth. And so we have burned so many relationships that they can't understand why when we need people, they don't come. And if we learn one thing from the Iran war to this date is we need allies. Going there with just Israel is not enough. And now we've got a situation where we just don't have it. We don't have the allies. We don't have the partners to go. And it does. The through line, you pull it back, it's Greenland, a NATO ally being threatened by military invasion, where we literally had a NATO ally have to deploy troops on their own territorial land to defend possibly against the United States of America.
Yeah.
I always, the running joke for me, Ken, is that meme, the old meme from the movies. Are we the baddies? I mean,
Right.
There comes a point, it's like, wait a minute, I think we're the bad guys. And so what we've done is we've disappointed our allies, as they say. We've undermined our allies. We've threatened our allies. And then the audacity of Mr. Trump and the Republican leaders of Congress, like Lindsey Graham and others, to turn right around and say, our allies suck, they won't help us. All you've done is offend them. All you've done is dismiss their concerns. All you've done is ignore. You can't go to war, start a war, and then turn around and say, hey, where are you guys? It's truly... By the way, this is the anniversary, I think, of the Leroy Jenkins meme, right? If you guys follow Leroy, we literally Leroy Jenkins the war with Iran. Screw it. They're going to close straight over here. No, they won't. Let's go. And you know what happens? Everybody jokes about the Leroy Jenkins part where he runs in the room. But before we get the end of that is everybody died. Okay. And so you can't Leroy Jenkins your way through a war. And here we are. So, the whole week has been, you have to laugh. I'm running for Congress here in Missouri, so you have to have a sense of humor, obviously. and clearly, we know that the ridiculous things. Governor Landry from Louisiana went to Greenland with boxes of MAGA hats. Ken, they're trying to give out "Make America Great Again" hats in Greenland. It's stupefying. It's insanity. And so I do think all we've done in the last year and a half is burned America's reputation in ways that I'm not sure when we'll get it back. It'll take a generation to fix the damage that we've done.
Well, Governor Landry is just adding to our national humiliation in Greenland. I literally can't think of anyone worse to send. I can't think of a state in the union that has less in common with Greenland than Louisiana. And to drive home your point about how seriously they are and were taking our threats against Greenland. I was there and this broke after I left with Malcolm Nance and Dean Blundell and Denver and a few others, but we were there as the Danes and the Greenlanders were preparing to fight the
Yeah.
82nd Airborne or
Yeah.
whoever else might have jumped
Which
in
had
there.
been put on alert at one point. I mean,
Wow.
there was literally rumors they were being put on alert. They were
Yep.
training for winter warfare. We were literally telling our allies, "We're coming."
Yep. And the Danes brought special forces with enough blood to survive as long as possible, with med kits and with explosives to blow up their own runways. And I don't think it was any coincidence at all that when I arrived, in almost every conversation I had with an official or even just some local who wanted to make their voice heard to an American audience, they made a point of describing how good they were at shooting, in a couple of cases, seals bobbing in the water at 200 yards away from a moving boat. They took us on the hill overlooking Nook, and the perspective of that one runway, which is the only place you can put down there because you're not jumping into Greenland. The landscape is just not suitable
No,
for it.
not
They
gonna
were
happen.
ready to fight for their island, and on one hand, I mean, America's national humiliation is just deepening with every day that this regime makes a fool of itself. On the
Yes.
other, I do think they respond to deterrence,
Yes.
and I think the backbone that the Danes showed had a real effect there. I want to ask you about NATO in particular, and this idea that this administration, the Trump administration, seems to have that the democratic will doesn't apply in allied countries, that you can just bully another country's leader, that you can just apply economic leverage, and the people of that country have no say in it. It seems
Yeah.
a just a fundamental misreading. It's also a misreading of the American political culture. They don't seem to care about democracy here either,
No.
but NATO is not having it. NATO is
No.
no longer going along with America's bullying.
No, and for me, what bothers me is, I served in Iraq. I talked about the 101st Airborne, which was my first tour in 2003 of my second combat tour. But my last two tours in combat were in Baghdad with the command training the Iraqi security forces. Do you know who was our partner in the training command? NATO.
Yeah, yeah,
NATO was training us. NATO was training troops and fighting in Afghanistan, literally fighting. They lost troops just like we did. So to see our allies who literally bled out for us when we were attacked, who deployed to a place that wasn't threatening Europe at the time. They went to Afghanistan, they went to Iraq and fought by our website. While it's not NATO, my roommate, my third Iraq tour or whatever it was an Australian who's now a general. I mean, these are our allies, our friends who, when we called, came to our rescue and joined us with small allies. Ukraine was there. Romania sent a couple. I mean, it's remarkable. And then to see them treated so dismissively, so derisively, so disrespectedly by both Trump and people in Congress, like my opponent, Ann Wagner, who was on the Foreign Affairs Committee and doesn't have the courage to stand up to Trump and say this is wrong, is bad. So that's the disrespect part. But the bad part for me too, of course, is this is dangerous for America.
yeah.
This will hurt the United States in ways that are immeasurable. Our allies provide much more. We are not the idea that we're paying for NATO or that we are the protection of NATO is a historic anomaly. It's not true, right? I mean, maybe in the immediate after during the Cold War, but now we need them too. We need those forward bases. The idea of shutting down Germany because we don't like the chancellor means that our wounded soldiers who get injured in the war in Afghanistan, like the 6 soldiers who didn't need to die in the port of Shuaibah in Kuwait, now instead of flying to Germany for healthcare, we're going to have to fly them to the United States of America. They're going to have to fly all the way to Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. So just by being so rude and disrespectful and dismissive of our allies, we are truly endangering the lives of our troops. And it's what angers me so much is knowing that from my experience as both a soldier and then flipping to my new job, running for Congress. My God, where is the oversight? Where is the adults in the room in the United States Congress who have no courage to stand up to us? Like I mentioned, my opponent, Ann Wagner, sits the Intelligence Committee, constantly glad handing how great things are when you and I know it's a lie. We know Hegseth is lying. We know they're attacking for no reason. I don't think about being a congressman often, but I think about if they ever came to before our committee and tried to attack me, who is the elected representative of 750,000 plus people in Missouri, and how the audacity of these people and the way the congressional leadership on the Republican side just allows this to happen. I mean, we are in a very dangerous place for the United States beyond the comic relief. We are in a very dangerous place.
Yeah, I think it bears reminding folks that what preceded that decision to pull 5,000 combat troops out of Germany, it wasn't just the disparaging of NATO and dumping on German leadership and others. It was the immediate precedent was a call with Putin. So there's
Hey,
two sides to this coin. It is
I
one, Trump's temper tantrum about not getting everything he wants from NATO leaders because NATO countries are democracies. They answer to their people. And when they see
right,
how America is treating them, they don't want to have anything to do with us. But it is also answering to Putin's requests. And Putin
right,
would love nothing better to have an unprotected eastern or western flank for Russia. And they're, incursions have already begun. They have already
yeah,
begun these ferreting operations
yep,
against Poland, where we just announced another troop withdrawal from
yep.
Poland. And
With one
if you
day's
think,
notice. With
yeah,
1 day's notice.
1 day's notice. Um, Tell us a little bit about that. I haven't done the deep dive into the Polish withdrawal, but that was a combat brigade as well, or parts of one, right? I
Armor
mean,
brigade,
those were
an
frontline
armored
troops.
brigade, who was in transit, by the way. I mean, we're
Wow,
literally ending, and that's let's take that. So we've talked a lot about the effect on our allies, the effect on our enemies, but let's talk about our troops for a minute. Because you and I talk. You and I are both. We were both pilots at one point. I also was led troops. Think about that. You've trained, you're ready to go. You're going to spend a year in, maybe 9 months or a year in Poland. They're probably reserve units. And then you load your stuff on a boat and no, never mind. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, you know what? Well, we're going to send you to Iran instead. Oh, never mind. You're on an aircraft carrier and we can't make up our mind. Did you see there was an interesting graphic that came out tracing the route of, I believe, the Ford
I
in
haven't
its
seen it.
1 year deployment
Yeah,
everywhere, off of Israel, off the Red Sea, back to Israel, Venezuela, for God's sake. This is we do not have the forces to do all these idiotic things. Okay. So what that means is the ones we have are being worn out. I don't know if you saw the
yeah.
news where the army is canceling training right now. The army is canceling training because they've run out of money. Brother, it's May. Okay. Okay. For those who don't, for
Yeah,
those 700 people, wow, this is amazing. The military's fiscal year is September to September, October to September. So usually in August, September, you start getting tight. Why is it significant that we're broke in May? Well, anybody know when reserve units and National Guard units mobilize for annual training? Any idea when ROTC units go for their training to qualify as officers, future officers? Any idea when cadets at West Point deploy for the summer to do training to learn to be our future leaders? It's the summer. And
yeah.
we have now found out that the United States Army has run out of money in May for training because of the deployments of the National Guard to the stateside, because of the massive deployments to Iran, the massive deployments to Venezuela. They've spurned all with no plan whatsoever, except trust me, bro. And now they're going to the Congress and they want the Congress to say, hey, you guys are great. Here's your money. And the Congress is stuck with the choice of F you, which they won't,
Yeah.
or because you don't support the troops, or funding a war. That's what they did. So we're in a place where we've literally damaged deeply the readiness and training and defense of the United States of America for Trump's idiot ideas to have National Guardsmen patrolling the Capitol for no reason, sending them all over the country for the support ICE. Here in Missouri, they've got National Guard deployed doing paperwork for ICE. Meanwhile, our future of our defense means training units, the same units. So it is, we're committing suicide as a military right now, led by a fool, Pete Hegseth, and supported by a Republican doormat Congress that absolutely refuses to do their damn jobs right now. And it's going to endanger lives, not just today, but for decades to come.
This is where it becomes relevant that Pete Hegseth couldn't even manage a small veterans nonprofit.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this too personal, but Fred, you and I both know the backstory on this, and there's some stuff we can't say. But this
Mm,
guy, I mean, this guy couldn't even run a staff of 5 people, and he's
no,
asking for $1.5 trillion. No
trillion
wonder
dollars.
no wonder they're running out of money, and no
Right,
wonder they have to lie
right.
every time they're asked about how much the Iran war is costing. Surely you don't believe those numbers, do you?
No, I don't believe there's no for a minute. And somebody said there's military recruitment down there in the comments. I don't know, because if you really believe what they're telling us, I've got a freaking look. I live in a city that's got this incredibly beautiful silver steel arch. I will sell that to you because if you believe for 1 second Heg says recruiting numbers, Heg says truth about anything, I've got a giant silver steel arch to sell you in St. Louis, Missouri, because it's complete BS. I don't know what the truth is, but here's what I do know. Great. If recruitment's up, how are you going to train them? How are you going to train them? You burned all the money having National Guardsmen stand around on corners in our capital to look tough. Okay. They've burned their money having guys sail around the Middle East during a ceasefire. So all this is ridiculous. We are at a point now of ridiculousness, but incredibly again, it's easy to joke about. Pete Hegseth is monumentally incompetent. One of my pride and joys I joke about a lot, Ken, is they created the DoD rapid response Twitter feed and attacked me as their first target because I was calling on Hegseth's incompetence, because Pete knows who I am. I'm very proud that both the
Congratulations.
VA secretary and the DoD secretary personally hate me. But I mean, it's because I've been hitting them for so long. When Doug Collins was a congressman, I hit him. When Pete
Yeah,
Hegseth was a private individual, I joke that I've known Pete for 15 years. We've disliked each other for 14.9. And the truth is that that's the deal. Pete is monumentally incompetent. He's far over his head. He acts like a major with a chip on his shoulder, because that's what
yeah,
he is. And look, who's paying the price? Your sons and daughters who will volunteer to serve your nation. And what makes me really scared, you guys, is this isn't a today problem. This is a decades long problem, because the young POC, Black, white, Hispanic, women, LGBTQ officers and soldiers who've signed that line and went into the service, they're seeing their generals, LGBT, white, or excuse me, women, POC, being fired. And they're saying, you know what? This isn't a place for me. And so
yeah,
when you lose lieutenants today, you're losing generals in 3 decades. It takes 3 decades to make a general. So the white nationalists that are joining Pete Hegseth's DOD and being encouraged will be your generals in 30 years, folks. Chew on that,
yeah.
because that's what's happening right now. And if it doesn't scare you, you're not paying attention.
Well said. And if there is a temporary bump in recruitment numbers, it's temporary. The long tail of the damage that Hegseth and Trump are doing to this military, it's going to be devastating. You
Yep.
might even attribute the recruiting numbers to the bad economy. The
Right.
military tends to draw
That's
people
more important. Exactly. That's
when
100%.
when the
It's
economy is
100%.
tanking. Yeah, and you know, furthermore, I think this Pentagon has just lost all credibility whenever it says anything after banishing the press corps
Right.
from the five-sided building, after saying that the Iranians blew up their own girls' school. I mean, something happens when you lie so habitually when it comes to that contract with the American people. And you know this better than anybody, Fred, as Petraeus's spokesperson, as
Yep.
the 101st Airborne's. You were the 101st Airborne
Yep.
spokesperson as well in
Yep.
Iraq.
Yep.
Like, it's a
Not right,
two-way
but yep.
street. As you
It is.
said, it's media relations.
Right.
Relations is
It's the
is
second
part
word.
of it. I'm trying to do something different here, which is monitor the chat, which is lighting up, and I
Yeah,
lost
it
the
is. Look at
question,
that.
but there was one that popped up in my peripheral vision about the GOP spinelessness and whether it is, a function of ideology or
Yeah.
just cowardice. Do they really believe in what the Trump regime is selling, or are they just afraid of their seats, losing their seats? I think the latest data point in trying to understand this is Cassidy's loss and the fact that now
And
he's
Massey last
finally
night.
found his spine. Massey's
Yes.
got 8 more months as well in Congress,
Right.
but I think Cassidy is really the object lesson here because he did everything he could over the past few months to try to cozy up to Trump. He sold his soul in every way imaginable, and now that he no longer has a seat to worry about because he lost the primary, he's finally supporting the Democrats' war powers
Yep.
resolution. He is going to
Yep.
do things that he didn't have the spine to do before because he was afraid of losing.
Yep.
That's my
And
take.
Cornyn next. And Cornyn next. My God,
Yeah.
John Cornyn, John Cornyn of Texas, you guys, tried to name a highway, is proposed naming a highway in Texas the Donald Trump Highway. And then he picked Ken
And
Paxton. Like
it wasn't enough.
you can never, never, ever, ever subservient yourself enough to Donald Trump that he will remember your loyalty. Okay. So only thing that I literally have followers. I have supporters, congressionals, as I do a lot of my district. I'm always out and about. And people come to me all the time. It's like, Fred, Ann Wagner are my opponent. Ann Wagner, my opponent, condemned Trump after the grab him by the pee tape came out. She said he shouldn't be our nominee. She actually walked away from Donald Trump. She took back her endorsement of Donald Trump in 2015 when that tape came out. And then we got that nomination, she flipped, and she has never opposed Donald Trump since, ever, in any way. Matter of fact, point of order, she literally reposted the graphic of his endorsement of her the day the Epstein files came out. And this is a person who ran for Congress on the stat of two things, abortion and sex trafficking. Her entire personality for 13 years has been around stopping sex trafficking because she was the ambassador to Luxembourg and saw it first, some ridiculous thing. But for Epstein, silence. So she knows we know for a fact that my opponent, Ann Wagner, knows all of this is bull. And she'll look you dead in the eyes and say she agrees with you, and then she'll vote for it. And that is the court, because she knows right now she's got 4 opponents in her Republican primary. 2 of them are extreme MAGA. I'm talking unbelievable, insane MAGA. She knows she can't possibly cross Trump. So she quietly goes about her business. So for me, we do know that's the case. It's fear for their future. It's fear for their power. But for me, that's why we have to throw them all out. We have to have representatives who are willing to go to Congress and lose their job, because that's the job. That's your duty. It's funny how people told me when I first decided to run for Missouri 2, it is a swing district. People don't believe that, but it is down to, depending on what poll you think. We got a poll that shows the D plus 4, but it is in play. I know that. I wouldn't run if I didn't know that. But it's amazing to me how many people said, Fred, you're running a swing district for sure. You're going to have to get to Congress, start raising money right away. You can't get out in front of things. You can't do any kind of crazy agenda. You're going to have to just keep a low profile, be a backbencher to get reelected. And I'm like, then why am I running? What's the point of being in Congress if you're not going to use the power you've been blessed to give? And it's not a lot. It's 435 people who I got to deal with, but somebody said, how's it going to be being one of 435? I said, I don't know. I see my role as being the one of 750,000 who represents them in Washington, D.C. That's a pretty big job, right? And so I'm going to Washington, D.C. to do big things and do them fast. And if that's good enough to get me reelected, then great. If not, I'll go right back to my life. I'm happy. I'm 60 years old. So I get mad when I see so many people who are willing to go to Washington, D.C. and triangulate or backbench themselves or not do the big things we need to do for the American people. And that's what makes me the angriest, is the Republican Congress we have right now is the most ineffective in history. We thought the last one was bad. This one's been even less effective, right? They will not stand up to Trump. They will not provide oversight of the illegal actions, the corruption. I mean, come on, $1.776 billion that's going to go to people who attacked our Capitol.
I want to ask you about that and whether that in particular, that's the last thing on our set list, is that resonating in the Missouri second? Is the corruption finally catching
Oh,
up to Donald Trump? Because he is acting as if it doesn't matter, which is its own red flag,
it's not
right? He is
true.
acting as
Yeah,
if there will not be accountability, like he has some kind of nefarious backup plan, which I think he might. But day after day, he is outdoing his own track record for corruption, the latest being this slush fund totally under the control of his own personal attorney, no accountability. Buried in that deal was a another guarantee from the Justice Department never to um, investigate the entire Trump family's tax
right,
returns. I mean, the
right.
corruption is just wild. Is it
Unbelievable.
breaking through
It
with
is.
the
It
kinds
is.
of
Yeah.
voters you need to reach?
I have 3 buckets that I approach in this race. It's so easy. It's affordability, accountability, and healthcare. Those are my 3 buckets. And we didn't do focus sessions. Ken, you've run for office. We didn't do focus sessions. We didn't do poll for that. We haven't even, our poll goes out next week, by the way, our first poll. No, I just went out And when I thought about running, I just started going out in the district, talking to Republicans and Democrats because I get the opportunity. Because let's be honest, I look like this. I'm a veteran. Throw on a veteran hat, go to a bar. People just make assumptions. And so I get the opportunity to talk to people. And again and again, they're scared to death about the affordability crisis, the cost of living crisis. The one thing I hear constantly on the road, and even in my own neighborhood, which is a nice neighborhood, I'm so worried about my kids, Fred. I'm worried about my kids, Fred. That comes from everyone of any wealth, of any. The second thing I hear about is, Fred, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, what is going on in Washington? Why is Ann Wagner not saying? I'll give you an example. It's something I've been talking a lot lately. I'm running as a Missouri Democrat, which is we could talk about that separately there, Nicole. It's a separate thing. But my opponent, Ann Wagner, sits as the subcommittee chairwoman. You're going to love this. Brace yourself. Of the Committee on Capital Markets, which its mission is to oversee the capital markets, ensure people have trust and faith in them, and oversee the SEC. I want you.
I know where
Okay.
this is going.
All right. Like, think about that for a second. She is the chairwoman of the committee that oversees the markets.
She made a little money.
$27 million. She's worth $27 million. She's doing great. But beyond that, I mean, hey, look, I don't fault anybody for being well off. I fault you for pulling the ladder up behind you. I fault you for not doing your mission. If you're such an expert in the market, clearly you must be if you got $27 million. I mean, the funniest thing is when they attack Pelosi's trading, do you know it's number 11 behind Pelosi on the top 100?
I'm guessing.
Ann Wagner, my opponent. I got a graphic that shows Nancy Pelosi at number 10 and Ann Wagner at number 11. But having said that, what I do falter for is not doing your duty. We know there's been insider trading to the tune. Who is moving $180 million 15 minutes before Donald Trump makes an announcement about the Iran war?
Yeah.
Who can move $180 million in 15 minutes? We can find that. It's easy. Why do we not know that? Right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump, we just found out yesterday, Donald Trump, did you hear? There's a graphic online that shows that Donald Trump made more stock trades in the last quarter than the entirety of Congress combined.
It's like one every 9 minutes.
The entirety of Congress combined.
Yeah.
He made more trades. Are we investigating that? He visited a company. He bought stock, visited the company, said on TV on True Social, buy this company because it's great, and got money out of it. Do you think the chairwoman? The chairwoman of the company, it would nothing.
Yeah,
man.
no. Finish your thought, and then
the chairwoman of the subcommittee. I would think that the people who run the Capital Markets Committee might be interested in that. Might be. Apparently, they're not. Apparently, that's cool, and I have a problem with that. So that's the deepest kind of corruption, and Congress is failing to do their duty. And my opponent, Ann Wagner, has completely walked away from her duty to reflect her constituents and everywhere.
This kind of corruption has a corrosive effect on all of society. And I can't stop thinking about that sergeant, that Special Forces Army sergeant who placed a trade right before the Maduro raid. Now, that guy's got to go to jail. You don't sell your buddies out like that. That was wrong. Then again, if you see your commander-in-chief making 3,600 trades on information,
right.
There's no more insider information than being the president of the United States. I mean, you're a sergeant. You're not making anything. You're risking your life when this guy tells you to. Why not get in on the action, so to speak?
Yeah. Do you know the old Greek saying?
That is tongue in cheek.
What's the Greek saying? A fish rots from the head down. and that's a military unit. You and I knew that in the military. I learned that saying in the 101st Airborne when I had a commander who wasn't great, and one of my subordinates was Greek. He says, I got to tell you about a Greek. I'm like, and now the commander-in-chief himself is corruptly leading the military, using the military. He's literally told us they invaded Venezuela for this oil. He literally says we're making. Everybody asks about these wars. He goes, well, we're making a killing. No, he's making a killing. Sure. Why should a sergeant get in on it? But that's easy. It's easy to pick that low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
And sure, he's a criminal.
And they're going to throw the book at this guy.
Oh, he's again. Toast. He's done.
As they
he's
should.
Done.
But the president should get twice as much time in jail as this sergeant.
Well, the good news is he's never going to be audited again, Ken. I mean,
I guess.
Yeah. There's an agreement that the family will never be audited for the rest of their lives, perpetuity. My God. I mean, where are we,
Fred, we're at the end of our time. Where can people find out about your race? How can they help you out?
I need help. Look, guys, I tell people we're in Missouri. They wonder if we're going. I we have a path to victory is so clear. People are so tired here. I've been working this job for 7 months. I started thinking about it last year. We have worked very hard to look at the district and see where my opponent's vulnerable. And she's very vulnerable. We have a path to victory in one of the most overlooked races in America. This will be the 218th vote. I promise you that. We were in a flip Missouri too. They did not save my opponent because of the redistricting they tried to pull, which may not go through probably, but they are not going to save her this time. So we have a strategy and a plan to win. So my website's wellmanformo.com. My colleague Riley is in there. Leave me links. I would be forever grateful if you consider a donation. Any amount would help us at wellmanformo. We are going to win this race. But yeah, the national Dems, national folks, they look, oh, Missouri, Missouri. Like, I'm telling you, man, I live here. I grew up here. I came back 5 years ago. It's a beautiful place. It is a changing place. It's a welcoming place. We had the fastest growing population of South Asia, our Pakistani Muslim friends and our Indian friends. I've been meeting that community. We've got a wonderful community of Afghans who came here during the fall couple. We have a beautiful, beautiful, diverse community that deserves representation that recognize that. And that's why I'm running. I'm running because we've been ignored, we've been ignored, we've been ignored. And now I'm running to represent. So back to that last question, I'll let you go. Are you a progressive? Are you a liberal? Are you a social? I'm definitely not a socialist, but I am a Missouri Democrat. What that means is I'm not running for the National Party. I wasn't recruited by the National Party. I'm running because I looked at my community and saw 270,000 plus, or excuse me, 750,000 plus people who hadn't had reputation, not just 13 years, Ken, 33 years this has been Republican. And they can't even get their member of Congress to answer their phone calls. She doesn't even open her office in one of the communities. She doesn't do town halls. So I'm running for the Missouri. I'm running for my folks. I am a Democrat, true blue Democrat, but I'm running because people desperately need a representative in Congress who sees them and works for them. So wellmanformo.com. I would love your support. I love Meidas Touch so much. I appreciate you as a friend, my friend, and I'd love to hear more.
Great. Let's keep talking, Fred. We'll check in on your race often, and good luck.
Thanks, brother. Good seeing you again.
See you,
Cheers.
everyone. Bye.
Bye now.